Tabitha, Kat, welcome on the landscape. Let's start with a little round of intro. Tabitha, go for it.
Yeah, I'm Tabitha Sable. I am a member of the Kubernetes Security Response Committee and one of the co-chairs of Kubernetes SIG Security. And just in general, I think that there's a lot of good to be done in the world by helping totally normal software developers or operations people learn about the joy of breaking your own systems, because other people are going to be trying. You might as well understand it yourself.
I love that.
Kat, your turn.
Yeah, my name is Kat Cosgrove. I am a member of the Kubernetes Steering Committee. I am also the sub-project owner for the Kubernetes release team and a technical lead for SIG docs. In my day job, I'm the head of developer advocacy at Minimus, so I just kind of do a lot of talking in general for fun and profit. But within open source, I like making it easier for new people to contribute, which is why I own the release team subproject. It's a very common on-ramp for new contributors. I think it's a very difficult on-ramp, but it is the most common way we get newbies 3 times a year.
Amazing. Thank you for being here today. Very, very hot topic we are going to discuss in this episode. We are here to speak about Ingress NGINX. Can you briefly explain, for maybe some of the listener who don't know what is this module exactly doing?
Tabby, you want to take it?
Yeah, sure. So within the Kubernetes networking model, you deploy an application, it runs in pods. Those pods have some IP address, and that IP address does not necessarily have anything to do with the rest of your network, the ability of your users to connect to it, any of those sorts of things. And so the original Kubernetes project data structure thing that you can deploy into your cluster in order to indicate that you want some workload running in some pod to be accessible to the outside world somehow is by creating an ingress object for it. And it says, allow people to access this pod on these ports, whatever. And the exact details vary depending on what implementation you're using. So there are a lot of different ingress controllers available depending on what the needs of somebody's environment might be or what the capabilities of their environment are. So like if you're on a certain cloud provider, there's almost certainly an ingress controller that uses that cloud provider's built-in load balancers and does the configuration for you. If you're on-prem and you have a particular commercial load balancer appliance, there's probably an ingress controller that communicates with that appliance and exposes your pods. Ingress NGINX is a ingress controller that exposes pods to the world without any external dependencies on appliances or cloud services, things like that, by configuring the NGINX web proxy server, and then you plumb in access to Ingress NGINX, and Ingress NGINX routes the requests back to your pods based on the ingress objects that your Kubernetes users declare in order to make those pods accessible.
Amazing. Thank you, Tabitha. So how widely used is this today in the cloud native world?
I love this question because it's like asking the question, how many deer are there in Yellowstone National Park? There's no perfect way to answer that question. And it gets into the whole academic discipline of statistical sampling theory, which we are not going to discuss here. But the fact of the matter is, it's very popular. At my day job, I work at Datadog, and internal research there puts it at approximately half of cloud-native environments are using Ingress NGINX to some extent or another.
All right. And so the community announced several months ago, I think in November, right, that the Ingress NGINX is being retired. So, yeah, what's the deadline and what retirement actually means for users here?
So the deadline is the end of March. We are going to wind it down at KubeCon Amsterdam or thereabouts. Unfortunately, it means that everybody, that 50-ish% of cloud native environments that are relying on it, need to start doing work right now to switch to an alternative. Ingress NGINX will keep working. We're not going to like nuke it from orbit, right? So if you're relying on it now, it will still be running in April or whatever, but it's not going to get any more releases. And that includes things like security patches. So if a CVE is disclosed in April, we're not going to fix that. There will be no more releases. The repository will be archived. Existing artifacts will remain. You can pull them if you want. We're just not going to be pushing any updates. So you've got about 2 months to do the work, but work does need to be done. It's not good to rely long term or any term, in my opinion, on dead software, and it's the end in March.
How involved this work is? Is it, do you think? Obviously, it will depend on every of your setup, but how much work it is to come in with a replacement, and what good replacement is there out there?
We're officially recommending Gateway API. It's a more modern way to do what Ingress NGINX was doing. There are a bunch of third-party Ingress controllers. They're all listed in our documentation. Every third party you can think of offers some flavor of Ingress controller, but the official recommendation is to switch to Gateway API. I don't want to downplay the difficulty of that by saying just switch to Gateway API. Every option there is requires some degree of planning and engineering work. There is not a drop-in replacement. You are going to have to plan for this. You are going to have to do work to switch to something else. Some solutions are a quicker switch than others, but choose what works best for you, your team, your company, your environment, your org. But our official recommendation is to go with Gateway API.
Tabitha, what are the implications behind that? Like, why did you decide to retire this option?
It's a bit of a long story, but the short of it is that even though it has been terrifically popular with users, it has never been terrifically popular with potential corporate maintainers. Kubernetes is fundamentally a volunteer project, and that gets a bit complicated because there are a fair number of people who volunteer because it is their day job to do so. Like, for example, Red Hat sells OpenShift, which is a redistribution of Kubernetes, and therefore a fair number of the people who work there contribute to Kubernetes. But in the end, it is people who show up and do things. And so when the situation is such that you ask repeatedly for additional people to show up and contribute, and additional people are repeatedly not forthcoming, and the software becomes more and more complex over time, it reaches a crossing over point where it's no longer in the best interest of the community to cause the appearance of something being more thoroughly maintained than what it is. And so, therefore, after several years of public and private efforts to try to attract additional contributors or sponsorship from various cloud native vendors in the form of encouraging people to work on it, eventually the responsible action was to say, we have tried, the community is not demonstrating an interest in maintaining this, and therefore we must admit that it is not well enough maintained that we wish to continue encouraging people to use it.
Yeah, the oldest ask for additional contributors or maintainers I could find was from 2022. So that's pushing 4 years of publicly begging for help and not getting any. So at some point, like, what are we supposed to do? We can't. It's increasingly a security burden. It's increasingly a maintenance burden. We can't just keep swinging at it.
And for users who may choose to keep rolling with it, the main issue might not be stability in the short term, but more security threat. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
Certainly.
Yes. And like the biggest issue from my perspective is that you may not know that you're reliant on Ingress NGINX unless you are proactive and go check. So if you don't do that and you are reliant on Ingress NGINX, you might not know that you were exposed until you're compromised. Mm-hmm. And I don't think anybody wants to deal with that. That's how the Experian hack happened. They didn't know they were exposed until they were compromised.
Oh, yeah. Because that software, like the vulnerabilities in that software had been published for quite some time. But
yeah, the Struts 2 vuln for months.
Yeah, if you don't know that you're running something, then you can't update it.
Yeah.
Or if you're running something that nobody is providing updates for, then you can't meaningfully update it.
Right. Well, maybe that might be, for experience cluster administrator, like kind of a dumb question. But for people who are here and are like, actually, I'm not sure if I'm using this module, how can they look into this? And if they want to get started with the migration, what's the best way for them to get started?
Well, there's a command you can run if you have cluster administrator privileges to check to see if the Ingress NGINX module exists. But honestly, the answer to that question is long and involved and not well suited to the format of a podcast. So I would say that you need to go to the Kubernetes blog, or actually to the Ingress NGINX repo. There is a link at the top of the README that will take you to the original notification that we were going to shut down the project, written by Tabitha, that includes links out to documentation, suggestions for what you should be looking at as a replacement, and how to see whether or not, in most cases, whether or not you're using Ingress NGINX.
Amazing. And we'll make sure to share this link in the description of the podcast and of the video on YouTube. Tabitha, Kat,
I'd like to add a little bit to that,
I was about to ask.
if I may.
Go for it.
So the Ingress NGINX installation process is very flexible. And that's why the answer is you can run this command that's in the blog post, and it will most of the time tell you if you're running Ingress NGINX. Little bit more about that. In all of the simple cases, if your cluster has a namespace called Ingress NGINX, you are almost certainly running Ingress NGINX. Then the command that's listed in the blog post is a little bit more detailed and will catch a lot of the more basic customizations of how you might be using it. It's possible to use it in very clever and deeply integrated ways in which there is no guaranteed, like, run this command and it'll tell you. But I hope that any organizations who are doing very deeply clever things like that also are aware that they are doing so. I hope that nobody is doing anything terrifically clever by accident.
Right. And of course, there is always the CNCF Slack. I'm sure there will be a lot of chat around this. And of course, there is a large community around the project. So if you find sneaky ways that we should know about, make sure to share it with the rest of the community. Tabitha, Kat, is there anything else you want to share with our listener before we close the episode?
Oh, I'll get on a soapbox. Do you want to get on a soapbox?
I was going to say, I think that's about it. I would say thank you so much for listening and for paying attention to the seriousness of migrating off of Ingress NGINX as soon as you reasonably can. It might be easy, it might be difficult, depending on how fancy your ingresses are, but one way or the other, you will be much happier in August or so if you start doing this now rather than waiting, say, until your compliance team comes and says, hey, what are we going to do about this, whatever.
Maybe we should have at the next KubeCon a little badge. I migrated off Ingress NGINX.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Oh no, I will print pens. I'll be in Amsterdam. Will you be in Amsterdam, Tabby?
I will be.
Oh, we should bring pens.
I love
That's
this
such a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you, I love this idea. Maybe we could do it at the SIG Security booth. First N people to come up and let us know that you migrated off of Ingress NGINX already gets a pin or a sticker or something.
That is so rad. That's
bribe people with swag. I love this idea.
Yeah, everybody loves badge flare. So
amazing. Yeah. Tabitha, Kat, thanks a lot for coming. People get to work, migrate off this before it causes issue. All right. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Thank you.